So going back to this issue, Max, that I was just bringing up, of Americans buying guns in preparation for civil unrest, rushing into silver and gold, and more people going on food stamps. It's close to, what, 43 million right now. I mean, I understand the international response you're talking about, but what about what's going to happen here at the ground level?
I don't live there, do I, Alex? That should be your clue as to what I think.
Yeah, but, I mean, people are protesting by the millions in France where you're at. I mean, you guys, I mean, you're always saying, look at the U.S., and we are the epicenter, but it's run by the similar system. I mean, Europe's having big problems, too. And, of course, as the U.S. gets sucked down, that's going to suck down Europe and China, and then it becomes just, all a black hole situation. But I understand you don't live here, Max, but, I mean, clearly the fact that we saw record gun purchases 2 years ago with the election of Obama, and now it's accelerating.
Yeah, but that's kid stuff. Guns, pop guns. In France, they cut people's heads off. You don't understand, Alex. The comments that were made earlier were bogus for the following reason. People saying, oh, in France, the people are on the streets, they're waving a Che Guevara poster, it's all communism. You don't understand, Alex. The government fears the people in France. The reason why the French people have, by every study, the highest standard of living in the world, work the least hours of anyone in the world, and have the highest productivity of anyone in the world, is because they're always on the street fighting their government. And if the government doesn't comply, they cut their freaking heads off. It's serious here. In America, they got the pop guns, they got their zip guns. They think they're tough, but they're actually pussies in America. They don't know how to fight a government.
Max, I understand.
The allied against them. They have no capacity to fight their own government or to fight for their freedom over there.
Okay, settle down.
They don't know what freedom looks like. They don't know what freedom tastes like. They should come to France and know what it means to be free. They don't know nothing.
Okay, Max, family show, though. Please, I understand you're upset, and I see what you're saying. For those that don't know, when they plant GMO crops in France, the farmers burn them down. The French have taken over the fuel shipping systems there. And as you pointed out Friday morning when you were on with us during the special live broadcast, our media, and I pulled it up, said thousands protesting in France, thousands in Greece. It's millions in your newspaper, so that's a major deception.
That's what they should be doing. Where are the American protests? Why are the Americans just sitting back and talking about, well, maybe I'll go down to Walmart and buy myself a gun? It's too late for that. You've got to amass right now, and you've got to push back right now. You don't understand. People say, I was on a show this past weekend. I was interviewing this in the UK, and the guy said, I understand what you're saying, Max, but how does it affect me? How does all this affect me? Here's how it affects you. You don't get any return on your savings, and you get no decent wages. That's how it affects you. The reason your pension account doesn't return any money, the reason your CD or your savings account doesn't return any money because interest rates are zero, and the reason your job doesn't pay you enough to have a decent quality standard of life is because all of that money has been transferred so that Wall Street can give themselves $144 billion bonus this year. Now, this doesn't happen as such in Europe because the bankers would fear for their lives. And I take a taxi from the studio back to my place tonight. I'll engage in a conversation with the taxi driver, and I'll say, what do you think about these riots and these protests and pushing back against the government? And he'll say, like they all say, look, at the end of the day, we can always just take them down to the Place Concord and decapitate them, because that's our history. The reign of terror is still fresh in the people's minds. 1789, people fought for liberty here, and they really got serious about it. And this is the eventuality that is going to amount an effective pressure against the government, because people get fantastic quality of life here, and the government is afraid of the people. In America, it's completely the opposite. The people are afraid of the government.
When the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. George Washington, of course, he's called a terrorist today. But again, Max-Keiser is our guest. Max, I want to take a few calls for you today. You were certainly on fire. More and more when we talk to you, Max, you are just full of energy. I can tell that you can certainly see things are unfolding. Let's talk to Ken in Michigan. Ken, you're on the air. Go ahead.
How you doing?
Good. Go ahead.
Yeah, just keep up the good work, you guys. I had a couple questions, one for Max. I'm not sure if he could answer it, and one for you. But one other thing is I really you can't really blame people for running out and getting the guns because, I mean, we have stuff like these cartels decapitating people.
Well, I mean, in all fairness, the sleeping giant always rouses slowly. So I think the fact that people are buying guns and saying they're doing it to protect themselves from government and individual criminals, I think it's a very strong message. So, again...
So, Alex, let me jump in there for a second. Here, the protests and the manifestations here, it starts off with labor. Then the truck drivers get involved. Then the students get involved. 80% of the population supports the walkouts and the demonstrations and the strikes to push back against the government. There's solidarity. In the U.S., people are trained to be suspicious of each other. They're trained not to work together. They're trained to be not cooperative with each other, that they should be out there trying to hurt each other to compete in this grand scheme called capitalism, which, as he just explained, doesn't even exist in the U.S. You don't even have the capacity to cooperate effectively to push back against the government. Here you do. So that's why you have millions of people coming together in all
sections of
society.
Ronnie, what was your question for Max-Keiser?
I was kind of curious where all this the drug money the CIA gets goes. I mean, does that go to black ops or?
Okay, Max, can you answer that question? And then I'm going to go to Ronnie. We're talking to Ken right now. Go ahead, Ken. Go ahead, Max.
Well, I mean, it funds the Pentagon. It goes to Eric Prince. How do you think Eric Prince made the billions? He's living in Dubai now. You can't extradite him anymore because he's in an extradition-free country. Just like Rumsfeld will be there and Bush and the whole gang will all be moving to extradition-free countries with their billions.
Well, that's like the Bushes bought. The Bushes bought like a 200,000-acre ranch in Paraguay.
Yeah, we were making a film about that at some point. But, I mean, it's all, the economy is collapsing, the social unrest is rising. At some point, the cost-benefit analysis of staying and stealing the last penny is no longer viable, and they'll just all leave. You wake up one day and nobody will be running the show. They'll be all living overseas, and you won't hear from them anymore.
But there'll be another group of criminals they've trained here that'll pick off the bones and then relocate in phase after phase, kind of like most Mexican presidents after they get out of office, leave and go to Switzerland after they've robbed people. Ronnie in Texas, you're on the air with Max-Keiser.
Thank you, sir. Two things. One, political economic question for you, Mr. Keiser, and how to demand that we as citizens demand that the powers that be release the facts about things like superproductive solar power, yielding much more power with mirrors, computers, etc. And I heard about this at UT. It's been developed. I heard about it just on local news once and only once.
That's right. The globalists, if you're not part of their inside crew, they don't let your system develop because it might challenge their monopolies. Ronnie, that's a good question. Thanks for the call. Comments on that, Max-Keiser?
Well, the question is how do they force the reveal of this information? So where does the leverage come from? And right now the answer is I don't see any leverage. There is no point of leverage you can push except the one that I've outlined on this show before, which has been summarily ignored over the past few months. There's only one
Max,
way
nothing has been ignored. You're saying take down Coca-Cola and take down that company, and it shows our power, and then they'll all be running scared.
Imagine the question asked to Mahatma Gandhi. Imagine the question asked to Martin Luther King Jr. Okay, these guys figured out that if you're trying to lead a mass movement and you have no money and no resources, the only possible leverage and power you have is through the boycott. And all I'm saying is that there is only one company that is vulnerable. It's not the worst company, but it's the most vulnerable company to a boycott. It's like that salt situation with Gandhi and his march to the sea, and it put the British Empire on their knees. If everyone stopped drinking all Coke-related products and target the stock price, every single show, Alex, you should give the stock market report and say, today the stock of Coca-Cola is down another 50 cents. We're winning. Just target the stock price. Forget about all the noise. Forget about everything else. Just say, we want that stock price to zero. Believe me, if you said that on your show, you would not be on the air in 2 weeks. Because that would demonstrate a genuine threat to the New World Order. They would say, wait a minute, this guy, forget it. He's off the air. You can't attack our stock price. That's our blood. That's our sacred water. You can't do that.
So you think they'd send a hit team in here? Because,
It'll be done. Look at in my own case, I made that statement about this fund that was going to create the boycott Coca-Cola, sell the stock short and use the money on the short sale to help people in India who are being victimized by Coke. They immediately sent out all their minions all over the world to write slanderous pieces about me, that I'm an eco-terrorist, I'm just like Mahatma Gandhi, that other eco-terrorist, and they mobilized. They started a free action fund in Washington, D.C. You had Steve Malloy and all these other jerk-offs in Washington, D.C. doing all these slander pieces because they know that that's their vulnerability. That's their Achilles heel. That's the 1-inch punch. That's the place where you can stick a little needle and take down a giant. If you just look at that stock price and say, we want that stock price of Coke to go to zero, and every day you say the stock's down another 50 cents, it's down another 50 cents, it's down another 50 cents.
Well, Max, let's close out with this, because I've got to get an update from John Irish, and we appreciate your time. Specifically for those that don't know about Gandhi saying only buy local, don't buy from the British that had these cartels and monopolies and were cheating people, and how that was the beginning of the end for them. Explain that to people.
Well, in Gandhi's case, the British Empire, well, just like the Goldman-Sachs today, was trying to sell back to the people what they took from the people. So here, Goldman Sachs essentially takes the money from the many of Americans, repackages it as garbage securities, and resells it back to them. And here, Gandhi was saying, no, we don't need the British selling us back our own salt. We can make our own salt. So here, what I'm saying is that to effectively put a company like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, who now are implicated in the Wells Fargo foreclosure scam and criminality, who's the biggest shareholder of Coke, you simply target that stock price and you say, the less we drink, the closer that stock price goes to zero. Trust me, Alex, if you target a stock price, it's a whole new ball game. It's a whole new ball game.
Max-Keiser, we look forward to speaking to you again next month. God bless.
Goodbye.
There goes Max-Keiser. We skipped that break so we'd have Max have his full time here with us today. Of course, I'm Alex Jones. If you just tuned in, find out more at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.tv.